Welcome, everyone. Today's talk is how to create a games industry in your country. And this is pointed at countries that don't currently have a game industry. I'm going to share my slides. Here we are. All right, here are my slides, and I hope that you appreciate them. Oh, I've got to put them on play. On play. Here we go. They're on play. All right. So this is the 18th of December, 2023. And I'm assuming that you mostly want to look at the slides and not me, so I'm up in the little corner. And there's my email. Silicon Valley is known as the hub of technological innovation and entrepreneurial spirit, and that has led to the attempted creation of copies in other places with names such as Silicon Beach, Silicon Roundabout, Silicon Docks, Silicon Wadi, and other such ersatz places. And with the success of the games industry in the United States, the European Union, Japan, and China, the desire for founding of a games industry in unserved parts of the world is growing dramatically, especially since much current technological innovation comes from the game industry. In this talk, I discuss how to create a games industry where there is none. So from the outside, Silicon Valley looks easy to replicate. All you have to do is find some unused piece of dirt, slap up some industrial shells for open plan offices, and come up with a snappy name for your sign, something like Silicon Beach or Silicon Dust Bowl. And if you've forgotten space for trendy restaurants and affordable housing for your development teams, then so what? Okay, I didn't really mean that. The game industry is kind of like this, and I'm going to try from a high level to describe to you the various required parts and the required costs. This is the high level picture, and when you get to the end of this talk, you might want to come back to this picture once again. It tells you all of the pieces in one slide, and this talk could just be one slide. All right, number one, game development talent. You cannot declare that you have a robust games industry in your country unless you have a way to create local game development talent, a way to create and utilize new technologies with that talent, and a way to deploy that highly educated talent on game development locally. In 2004, in the United States, the only way you could get a position in the games industry was to have already been on a team that shipped a AAA title, sort of a catch-22. In 2004, when Electronic Arts and Microsoft decided that rating other companies' talents to build their own game development teams was a zero-sum game, that they both ought to try and pull together and support the creation of university programs on game development. And Electronic Arts and Microsoft supported some 38 different university game development programs and put all the founders of those programs onto the same cruise ship for several years worth of socialization and information transfer so that there was some coordination between the programs. The amazingly humorous part of this effort was that when you spoke to the hiring people in the games industry at Electronic Arts and Microsoft in 2006, 2007, they all continued with the mantra of, we only hire people who have already shipped a AAA title. That eventually got sorted out by the various game development programs having end of semester demo days where the student built games could be presented directly to the game development hiring people so that they could see the nascent talent visible in what was being presented. So the starting thing required to create a games industry is to build an enduring game development program that your nascent games industry can hire from. Figure 2 shows the high level of what such a prototypical game development education program should look like. We spoke about this in detail in a previous column, but it basically is a master's level program with a master's in game development or a master's in game design or a master's in game art and design with focus on concept art or 3D modeling or game animation or game sound design. And the end of each of these degree programs is a year-long advanced game projects course, parts 1 and part 2, and that pushes right into, with best projects go into an incubation and acceleration center for game and technology startups. All right, so this is what the university program ought to look like if you create one. Question becomes how big a program to create. And I've been approached by many places globally, and they are all interested in creating a games program. And when you ask them how big a program do they want to create, they usually all say, can we start with something small? And small usually means maybe 3 classes with 53 students total for those classes. And you can do that the first semester, but the second semester could potentially be 200 plus students, which is great. But if you started small, that means you don't have many faculty to teach. You don't have much space for teaching labs, all of these things that are somewhat hard to get on short notice. My dean at USC gave me an 800 square foot space 2 weeks before the semester started in 2005, in fall 2005. $200,000 to purchase computing hardware and furniture, and he said I had to have 3 game development classes running in 2 weeks. He also gave me the bonus problem, saying I could only have that space for 90 days, even though the semester runs 5 months. I worried all semester that he was going to be at the door asking us to move out once 3 months had passed. Well, we did get to have the space all semester long, and we then had 150 students the next semester in that same 800 square foot space and no additional budget. Our first demo day had 12 people from the games industry come to visit, and all 53 students could be in the lab to see the demos and do the demos. Second semester, we had 65 people from the games industry attend and 150 students trying to cram themselves, phone booth style, into that spacious 800 square foot space. So we did not get much additional space for 10 more years or much of a budget until we got a 4,000 square foot space off campus, the USC Game Pipe Laboratory. So for those of you thinking start small, please just do the right thing and figure out how large you want the program to be and shoot for the stars. I suggest that you plan for 1,000 total students taught by about 65 faculty. I can send you the spreadsheet as to why those numbers make sense if you so desire. Where do you get the teaching talent? Well, hiring for new faculty for a games program in the United States in a city where there is a large development effort already happening is easy. There are plenty of game developers that would love to teach part-time in the evenings, and many who would like a career change to the easy life of being a full-time faculty member. I say easy life as a kind of humorous joke for those of you who are faculty. But if you're trying to create a games industry in a new country where there are not any developers, then you need to do special things to acquire your faculty. There are 2 parts to this. One, bring in game development faculty from other countries by offering them a great opportunity and a salary double what they made back home or wherever they currently are. And 2, educate your own faculty from the best students you find in your program, and you need to do both of these 2 parts, by the way. Now, one country I've been following has founded the entire university focused on AI, and their seed faculty, they were all early and recent retirees from Carnegie Mellon University, including a former dean that tried to hire me away from the Naval Postgraduate School in 1986. So a quick start with respect to hiring is to find faculty recently retired or separated from an outstanding games program in the United States and bring them on for a 3-year contract. This would get you up and running quickly with appreciative faculty looking for something interesting to do for a few years. And if you focus on your best students, the ones whose presentations are outstanding and smart, then you could begin the dance of trying to get them to teach in your new game development program upon graduation. And the most important hire for the new game development program is the university president, basically the person who makes sure an appropriate amount of money flow is there to create and run the university. Additionally, there needs to be a smart provost who oversees the academic programs from a high level, and hiring a search firm with experience in such hires is probably the right thing to do. The costs of this new university. If you propose a plan to create the games industry in a new country, the next question people ask you is, what does it cost? Well, it costs whatever you want. But I put together this spreadsheet draft to kind of show you the size of what we might be talking about. And in fact, by the way, the spreadsheet I'm going to show you is once we have 1,000 students, these are the operating costs and revenue flows of the university. This is not the money from the start, which is a different spreadsheet, which I'm not going to show in this presentation. So first, it's a spreadsheet, and all the numbers are changeable to allow you to see what happens if the numbers are different. If you change the total students number, currently 1,000 students, it changes the amount of tuition the university receives per year. And the tuition currently $150,000 per year is changeable as well. That is a very high tuition. I put it there because the cost for starting this up and running it seemed really high. And if I didn't put that number in, then I would be in the red from the start. The size of the faculty set at 65 is also adjustable, and you can see how it impacts budget. The average fully loaded faculty costs about $500,000 a year is a guesstimate, but it is a guess based on experience. The leadership costs are similar to those visible at a university like the University of Southern California. And if you think those are too high for your country and you try and think small numbers there. So, for example, if you said, instead of $4 million for my new university president, I want to pay him $600,000. If I want to do faculty at $250,000, then you're starting from people who are not the best that you can get and are not the early retired faculty who already made more money than that at their last position as they stepped down and retired. The only maybe crazy part of this budget is the build/acquire a magnificent building in downtown near the water, 350,000 square foot. That's just because I like to be near the water, and 350,000 square foot is probably the right number for 1,000 students and 65 faculty and all of the other parts of this effort to create a games industry in your country. This building acquisition and construction costs to outfit the building, annual operations costs, and the annual cost to outfit the building. And embedded in the spreadsheet is $1,000 per square foot cost for the building, and that can be broken out should it be so desired, right? This is just a draft to show most of the large ticket costs and the receipts that make this university happen. The bottom line is startup costs, about $402 million plus, annual operating costs, about $142 million plus, and the annual receipts, about $150 million. That sounds like the budget is balanced if someone can get you that $402 million startup. This provides a net annual profit of just $7.5 million, which is way low. And of course, startup from zero requires some rather large expenditures. So hopefully a government agency or some game industry donors, big corporations that want to have a game industry in your country can fill in the holes. So this is the Game Development University budget. And you'll see the costs there. You'll see the university leadership costs. You'll see the size of the student body there. You'll see the faculty acquisition, how to acquire existing talent to teach, because you actually have to have a person whose job it is to go out and recruit faculty and advertise and recruit faculty. So that's the person you have to pay. That's not a free person. That's probably a $3.5 million a year person. Size of the faculty, when fully staffed, 65, that's about 32,500,000. If you're doing 65 with a fully loaded cost of 500,000. Fully loaded means, by the way, that you've got a salary for them that they're happy with, and then you're paying their benefits and other expenditures that those individual faculty may need, such as administrative and IT support. So you can see the startup costs there. You can see the annual costs. You can see the annual receipts and the net annual there in the bottom of this slide. Games Research Institute and the Incubation and Acceleration Center. The focus of the Games Research Institute was detailed in the previous column, and I give you a reference for it. The purpose of the Games Research Institute is to develop new technologies and game designs for the games industry. The Incubation Acceleration Center's purpose is to do the work of patenting, protecting the generated intellectual property, and doing the work of licensing deals for that intellectual property. Figures 4 and 5 show the cost of creating and operating both entities. This is the Games Research Institute. $3 million a year for a director of research office operations, annual cost about $34 million, research admin annual $37 million. Researchers, when fully staffed, 50 researchers, again, $500,000 per researcher. It's about $25 million cost for total researcher. Startup costs about $10 million, annual cost $62 million, annual receipts, donations and grants, $100 million, and net annual about $38 million. So the Games Research Institute is where you actually make some significant, interesting money. Incubation Acceleration Center for Game and Technology Startups. It's going to share space with the educational program and the Games Research Institute, and those costs are in the line item with the Game Development University. You're going to have a director of incubation, about $1 million a year. You're going to have a director of acceleration. You're going to have seasoned developers and business leaders, $5 million a year. You have to have seasoned intellectual property law firm for patents and licensing, about $10 million a year. Total annual, about $17 million. So you can see annual cost of about $17 million. You can see 10 million startup costs for the incubation and acceleration center part of this project. Game development community. This is the formation and nurturing of an active game development community in many dimensions is key to the success of creating this new industry for your country. One of the most important things is that the developing games industry has a palace or event venue, maybe an esports resort where game industry events can be held in grand fashion. It can't just be a tent out in some patch of dirt. This resort will be the location of an annual conference for the global games industry. This resort will become a destination for the global games industry's leaders and talent and be a venue where the locally developed games, technologies, and talent can meet the global industry. There will be an event like the DICE Summit of the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, where the people who have done great things in games over the last year are showcased. And there will be a games industry award show like the Oscars. And since the venue is a resort, it will be a place where that global talent and fans can meet during esports competitions as well. And the cost of building this resort is in figure 6 and is a WAG. It can be anything. It could be an existing building. So space requirements, this is about 1 million square foot building to be built or acquired. I said acquire it, build it for $1 billion. Staff, director of research for esports resort, 5 million per year. Detailed planning to be conducted by a contract to Applied Minds and Gensler. Build out of the resort from the vanilla shell, about $1 billion. Esports resort budget roll up annual director, 5 million. Resort creation, 2 billion. Resort annual maintenance and upgrades. Resort staff annual to operate. Resort annual receipts. Net annuals about $2 billion. So you can make money significantly from this. So conclusion, this column has been, in this talk, has been a high-level presentation on what it would take and cost to create a games industry from scratch in your country. There are many reasons to do this. One is you want the youth of your country to stay home and build games whose stories emanate from local historical contexts. This is a big reason. If this is the Middle East, there's no one focusing on stories for the Middle East in the game industry at this point. Developers in San Francisco and Los Angeles don't even know your country's stories. They don't know your histories or where you are on the map, most likely. Games are media, meaning they communicate a story from a particular point of view, and that point of view comes from the developing team. And that development team is, if it's in the United States, it can't really write about your country properly. Another reason to build a games industry in your country is that game development brings about much technological innovation that no longer comes from government agencies like DARPA. Another reason that might be that game developers are typically some of the happiest people on earth, and that happiness is communicated globally from your potentially hit game. And think about this. I'm happy to fly over and consult on what you are dreaming to build and help you change your country's future in the games industry. Here are some references. There's one where it's the definition of Silicon Valley, where it is and what it's famous for. And if you don't know that, then you've been asleep somewhere under a rock. A previous paper written by me, How Do I Get a Position in the Games Industry, which tells you how to build a games education program. A previous paper written by me, We Need Something Like Bell Labs for the Game Industry, which is the Research Institute focus. And there's a link to the DICE Summit, which is just dicesummit.org, and it's a wonderful event, and I love going to it and meeting my friends there in the global game industry at that place. DICE has events in Europe, and it has events in Asia, and it doesn't have anything in the Middle East at the moment. Acknowledgements. Wish to acknowledge contributions of many friends in the games industry that understand why the game industry must be global. Thomas Lee, Pete Blumel, Justin Birnbaum, Joseph Olin, Jingyun Ma, Michael Yuen, Qian Liu, Michael Fisher, Faisal Kazim, Timur Hadi, and many others have all played a part in my understanding of why a global games industry is very important. And if you have any questions, there's my email address, there's my website. And if you're on WeChat, you can scan this QR code and find me. Anyway, this has been How Do You Create a Games Industry in Your Country? I will stop sharing the slides and say goodbye to here from my basement office in Carmel, where the General and the Maltese Falcon and all of my wonderful art and are hanging out here ready to talk to you whenever you want to. You have a great day. This has been the Games Column for IEEE Computer.